for those of you who don't know, I got a lot of things popping off. One of them is that I'm a professor at an HBCU, Delaware State University in particular. I've been there now about 3 years. This is supposed to be my second year as a full-time professor. So I'm full transparency, like I'm struggling with the idea of staying at this institution. I've hinted at it a little bit in my like IG story. It's just not being content with the treatment of not only myself but of professors at the university. And I don't think this is necessarily endemic to Delaware State University. It's also happening at universities across the country where there's an increased focus, and understandably so. What up, Kerwin? Understandably so, on this idea of customer service at the university. I can't speak to what happens at predominantly white institutions, but I know at HBCUs and at Delaware State specifically, customer service is being promoted as the top priority, and understandably so. It's the idea that despite the recent increase in individuals choosing an HBCU, unless it's a Howard, unless it's a Hampton, maybe not even Hampton, unless it's a Spelman or a Morehouse, they're struggling to get people and struggling to keep people. Now, again, they've seen an increase. I know at Delaware State, this is the biggest incoming freshman class in a very long time. I'm not going to just attribute that to what's happening with the affirmative action being struck down by the Supreme Court, and it's in the way that some folk understand it. But this has been something in the making for a long time, I think, where black folk, this next generation of kids, are saying, yeah, I'm going to tap into my blackness. I want to be around black folk. And so we're not going to the predominantly white institution. And so that's a beautiful thing. What I always caution people, and I'm not going to act like this is an original idea, the HBCU acts like a predominantly white institution. That's exactly how it's run. Now, let's think about it in terms of just the student body, right? Yes, they're predominantly going to be black kids, black students, black learners, sprinkling some brown, and there will be some white folk that find themselves on the campus. But ultimately, it's going to be black students, which is the idea that we have when we think about the HBCU. What's lost in that is what's happening on the faculty side. Now, we know that tenureship isn't being offered at a rate that it once was. They're bringing in a whole bunch of adjunct faculty into not only HBCUs, but just universities in general, because you get to pay adjuncts less. That's how I got my start. That's how a lot of people get their starts in academia, by taking the adjunct route. So I became an adjunct in 2020, the summer of unrest, the summer of George Floyd, the summer of, and the year of COVID and the pandemic. And I took it because I said, hey, you know what? Yeah, I have no problem teaching research. Even though I hadn't had a research class in about 10 years, but I was starting a doctoral program. And sometimes you just got to say, hey, I know how to do it, even if you don't. So I appreciate that white woman that hired me for that position. The thing about being an adjunct is for lack of better words, it's slave labor. Being an adjunct at any university is slave labor. You don't get paid a lot. There aren't any benefits. And this is magnified if you're at an HBCU, or if, listen, I taught at Grand Canyon University for about 2 weeks, And I realized, like, it really dawned on me, like, I was getting $800 to teach a 6 to 8 week course where the requirements of the professor was for me to, and it being online only, was to check in 3 times a week and correspond with students on the learning platform, to respond to emails within 24 hours, to have grades, to have assignments and quizzes graded within 5 to 7 business days for $800. But they get away with it because a lot of people want to be in the academy, and for noble reasons. I fashion myself just an educator in general, where no matter where platform I'm at, I'm always going to be educating. That's the reason why I got You Good Man, rhetorically speaking, whether it's a Dell State classroom, whether it's the actual You Good Man meeting in person, or just having conversation with folk. I want to learn, because that's part of being an educator and being in that environment. I'm coming in as not only as an educator, but also as a learner. And so that's how they get people. And so my experience at Dell State, listen, I was somebody who, because I haven't had a full-time job since 2011. This was my first full-time job in 10 years, 11 years, because I was strategic about that. I said, listen, once I left the city of Philadelphia, I will never get a job where my heart wasn't in it, or I felt demeaned, or I didn't have flexibility. It was a problem being police adjacent, working for child welfare, doing the work of white supremacy. That just never sat right with me. But being at this HBCU and being an adjunct, because of my love for black folk, because of my love for learning, I was just like, yo, I'm committed to it. Now I do teach as an adjunct at Stockton University in Jersey, and to to juxtapose the two, what I make it teaching one class at Stockton as an adjunct, I make teaching 2.25 classes, or I was when I taught 2.25 classes here at Delaware State. So it wasn't about the money. But now we're in a position where, and this is where and I got no problem. I don't care if anybody from Dell State is on, the chair, the dean. I'm in protest mode. And you might be like, Phil, why are you in protest mode? So I've been a lecture 2. So they hired me full-time faculty, a lecture 2. So I wasn't an assistant professor, which is understandable. Okay, I didn't have my doctorate at the time, even though there are universities where you can be an assistant professor with just an MSW or whatever graduate level degree you might have. So in the midst of this, knowing I was graduating in May, I was like, all right, you know what? Let me interview for this assistant professor position. Interviewed at the end of the last fall, beginning of the spring sometime, and was told I was the #1 person out of all the people that they interviewed. Of course I am, because I'm me. I know how I give it up in the classroom setting. There's no need to be humble about that. They're not fucking with me. You know what I'm saying? Respectfully. I'm unique in just the skills that I bring. Somebody said I was a unicorn. I'm a black man in social work of a certain age doing real community work, like really out here in these streets. I'm not sitting behind a laptop just churning out articles and shit. You know, even though I recognize that if I want to get tenured at some point, that's part of the game. And so it went dark. Didn't hear anything from them. Reached back out to the university. And this is my fault. This is where advocating for yourself is so important. This interview might have happened at the end of fall, beginning of spring. I didn't reach back out until May and say, yo, so what's up with this position? And I was told, hey, it's a hiring freeze at the university. And I was like, okay, got you. That just didn't make sense to me. Because we're talking about a university, and a hiring freeze is, wow, yeah, Kerwin, they make a brother feel good. Even though they don't take taxes out. So then when the tax man come, you don't feel as good. Kerwin Sutherland says, yeah, Stockton is on the higher end of adjunct pay that he's seen. So now at this point, my contract has expired with Delaware State. I was like 9 months, 10 months, I think I chose, but I am teaching summer classes. So I reach out to HR to find out, like, yo, so what's going on with this this paperwork for the fall, right? And it's like, oh, what? And this is another thing. And I'm not just going to put this on the HBCU, but it's HBCU-ish, where it's just like, we got you. You know how we get. Well, yo, I got you, fam. We got you. You good. Now, you good might be, I might get it in like October. You know what I mean? You good, man. I might get it in November, December, but I'm good, apparently. So I asked a question just about the hiring, and I was just like, so I was told that there's a hiring freeze across the university, and the HR representative, she said, yeah, there is. I said, but that doesn't seem like that would impact something like a quote unquote promotion, moving from one level to another, so a lecture two to assistant professor. She's like, oh, no. They just got to fill out some paperwork, right? Something brief. I said, yeah, that's what I figured. Mind you, because I've seen, we get emails. If you work at a university, you get these mass emails, like somebody makes tenure. So in the social work department, we got like at least three emails saying, congratulations, they fulfilled the requirements for tenure. So they good. They going to get some more money. They filled out this paperwork, whatever it is, right? Because there's a change that's taking place. So with me, I was just like, yeah, I kind of figured that, So if you're not familiar with my get down, I speak truth to power at all times. I don't give a fuck about bureaucracies at all. Chain of commands, I do not care about. Tell my students the same thing, right? I tell learners the same thing. Hey, ideally, and I had this happen earlier in this summer semester, the first week. I had a colleague reach out to me and say, yeah, so we had some students, reach out because they were unsure of your grading. But then we had another student who said plain out what it was. But I hadn't heard from the students. And so I've reached out. I sent everybody an email because that's my get down. I sent everybody an email. I was just like, listen, I ain't got no problem with y'all advocating on behalf of yourselves, right? That's if you feel like you need to circumvent me to get some answers that you need to do, handle your business. But I'm the type of person you can come to if you got questions, comments, concerns. I'm not going to BS you. I'm going to show you grace. I'm going to show love. But I'm also going to, I'm going to tell you the real. I'm going to tell you what's going on. And so I say that to say I'm not against jumping over somebody's head to get an answer. With that being said, part of the reason why I had to leave DHS abruptly, but that's another story for another day. So I emailed, so with regards to this situation, I emailed the chair, I emailed the associate dean, and I emailed the dean. I went to Chat GPT. I said, put this shit politely. You know what I mean? Because and this is where I'm not against artificial intelligence. Because what I had, listen, I'm a Scorpio. I feel things very intensely. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to be able to calm a little bit. I took what I wrote, put in Chat GPT. They added a kindly, right? They added some words that helped calm it down a little bit. But what I said in that was the same thing I said earlier. Before this person said I was a unicorn, I said, listen, these white universities want me. And that's no lie, right? But the fact is, I've committed myself to saying, you know what? I will only be a full-time professor at a black university. That's a labor of love. So my little $60K that I might be making here, my homegirl, she went to University of Maryland, Baltimore County. She said, she was working at Del State too. She said, fuck this. I'm cool. I'm out. I see it because she had the role of a field instructor, and we know that they shouldn't be using the term field now. But she was the not field instructor. She ran field. I can't think of the role right now. Somebody tell me, because I know what I'm talking about, or y'all know what I'm talking about. But she was like, yo, I'm out of here. I'm not getting any support. They won't give me an assistant. So field director. There we go. And so she went to University of Maryland, Baltimore County. She runs the Women's Center there, making $30,000 more than she made at Del State. A dope educator, somebody that the HBCU needs. Because the fact of the matter is, none of us going to get paid like the people like Howard at these private universities. Even the social work professors at Howard aren't making what your Nicole Hannah-Jones, your Ta-Nehisi Coates, what Claire Huxtable was getting when she was there. It's just the fact of the matter. But when you got talent, and this goes for a lot of places, right? Not just in academia. where the individuals and their skill set is not valued. They think it's replicable. And so she upped and left. Now she making 30,000 more. She happier. Her mental health is thriving. And I'm over here like, yo, I'm just asking for a level up as I start this career track. Now, me being a flower child, I might, it's a possibility. I might say in a year, nah, you know what, I'm gonna go do something else. Let me go make movies. Let me go make documentaries. Let me go back to school. That's what I've been flirting with anyway. And I'm gonna talk about Eddie Irizarry after I finish talking about this, and go be a lawyer, right? Go do some activist work in that realm. But just the lack of value. So I wrote this and I put all this in. I got a response from the chair, and I had to let my homegirl Tay read it because it was going to enrage me. She read it and was just like, yeah, Sam, we value you. We recognize the work you put in. I'm just waiting to hear from the dean. The same thing he said like 2 months ago. And granted, that may very well be the case. So I'm like, all right. So I'm like, cool. Sitting here thinking about what my moves are going to be. Yesterday, fast forward. So this was like July, mid-July. Because I don't stalk, let me take that back. Let me change my wording. Listen, I'm not going to go hunt people down and try to prove to them my worth. That's not the space I operate from. You either see it or you don't. I'm not what the white lady say, Brene Brown, I'm not hustling for my worthiness. Not at a Negro institution, a place where it should be embraced. But again, HBCUs tend to operate like how we think predominantly white institutions operate. So I sent the dean's secretary a letter. Oh, not a letter, an email requesting a forthwith meeting. Again, I had to go to ChatGPT because I needed some kind words in there. And so they put kindly in again. I think ChatGPT likes kindly. So let me see what Crystal says. Some places look at play from an equity standpoint opposed to pay for performance and impact. You want to find the value of a place, look at their budget. Indeed, with Dell State being a state institution, right? So everything is collective bargained. Hence the reason why we saw a lot of issues at Howard. I'm not sure I know they're a private institution. I'm not sure, if they're unionized and how unionized they are and the strength of the union, because there were individuals who weren't getting paid. So at like Stockton as an adjunct, I'm in the union. At Dell State, that's not the case. You're an outsider until you become full time. So, but there's specific. So I say that to say there are specific like steps, specific positions, or what have you. So I sent an email requesting a forthwith meeting. And I never do this. I attached a read receipt, and it was read at 9 a.m. We about to go on Wednesday. Still haven't heard from them. And so I'm at a place now, and the semester starts on Monday. So where I'm at now, and I appreciate this is therapeutic for me because I've been upset and frustrated all day. I didn't even record a You Good Man episode today with my man Mike, but I'm protesting, and my protest is, yeah, I'm going to teach these classes until I don't want to teach them anymore. But it's hard when you're committed to the student. And I'm not committed to the institution. I'm committed to the learners. So when I have learners who thank me for pushing them to think critically, not just allowing them to skate by as they may do in their other classes, and recognizing the value that they have and the intellect that they have, not being as stringent when it comes to things regarding work submission and yada, yada, yada. That's who I'm committed to. Again, but what Dr. Carr says, he says that when we look at the institution, the foundation of the institution is the learner and the educator. Everybody else helps facilitate that relationship. But what we see in academia far too often is that the further you get away from the core, the more problematic it becomes. And you find yourself in limbo, in my case, as a result of politics, as a result of lack of concern. Who's going to advocate for me in the way that I need but for me? The chair is tenured. Other professors are tenured. They cool, they Gucci, right? Which would lead you to think, yo, we will be on top of this to make sure we push for this. But this is where you're a seat filler. And when we start questioning your dedication to true education, the original idea of education. See, when we look at the HBCU, and I got the book back here somewhere. Where is it? I can't find it right now. But Kerwin says, heard Dell State is challenged to deal with in so many areas. Agreed. When we think about the idea of the HBCU in general, part of the idea was we're going to go here as learners. We're going to go here to get an education so we can bring back to the community and help community. And what's lost in all of this is this idea of community. And it's palpable. You can tell because when you realize that, but this is where you realize like it's a capitalistic entity. It's about the bottom dollar, the bottom line. So when they care about their ranking for U.S. World News and Report, when they first said that in their first faculty meeting and said their ranking and they were happy about it, I said, when does this become the game? This isn't how what I've known HBCUs in particular to be about. But this is where, again, you get caught up in what they do. You get caught up in what they do. But this is when you have those elite white universities, and I don't want to get the names wrong off the top of my head. I feel like one of them was Yale, or it may have been Penn. Like, yeah, we don't want to be ranked in your joint. We not worried about that. We cool. You know what I'm saying? Like think about that. Because they know they value. They know they worth. We motherfucking Yale. We MF in Harvard. We MF in Penn. We not chasing some fictitious white dream in this academic space. And so for me, my protest is, and this will be until either they like, yo, you ain't show up to a faculty meeting all year. Nah, I haven't, B. I have no desire. And if they ask me the reason, that's gonna be the reason. But I'm still contemplating but this is when Tupac talks about, this is why you don't see no loudmouth 30-year-olds. It's like they take the heart and soul out of a black man. He says this on Mortal Man, on Kendrick Lamar album, which is an old interview from like the early 90s when he was over in like Sweden or Switzerland or somewhere. But it's this idea that a lot of us are in spaces where we don't want to be. And because when we talk about taking the heart and soul from a black man, it's the idea that I have bills, I'm raising kids, because what'll happen if I just stop, if I pick up and just say, yo, know what, forget this, I'm cool, I'm done. Yeah, you might be homeless. And again, that's another conversation for another day when we talk about this idea of affordable housing. I just saw somebody who touts that they offer affordable housing, offering a two-bedroom apartment, a two-bedroom house or something for $1,800 a month. Like, what are we talking about here? But I digress. So I just bring up that HBCU situation and where I stand in the academy to just highlight. It's good that we hold HBCUs in high regard. We should, as a hub for black folk to just come convene at a basic level. But a lot of that is effed up. And it's going to meet the same fate no matter how much enrollment increases, because the spirit of it is lost. The spirit of what it truly is lost.